Welcome into the Bucks on the Pond podcast. It is Monday night, not Sunday night, but we're here and we are ready to talk East Carolina baseball. So ready, in fact. We've been all basically having a live podcast through text for the past 24 hours over seeding, top 25 predictions. Unfortunately, we'll get none of that tonight because the top 25 is already out. We already know where ECU stands. ECU takes 2 out of 3 from South Florida. They've got a big week ahead, so we'll look ahead to that at Duke at ECU, then at Tulane for the week ahead. All right, Stephen Igo here, Jonathan Wagner there, Scott Lowerbatcher here on bottom, as always, until right. Wait a minute. Weird things are happening. What is going on? Oh, gosh. There we go. Stephen Igo is now on bottom. All right, we always go around the horn and we give our thoughts. We'll start with Scott Lowerbatcher. Your thoughts on the weekend?
Just a weird kind of weekend altogether, with the Saturday play, don't play, and then Sunday you win the first game, and I thought we didn't play all that well, and then the second game on Sunday felt like we were a little flat, especially in the early part of the game, and then you have a long weather delay. I don't think that really helped at all. I thought we would get to see Shinkman at some point this weekend, but unfortunately didn't have him available either. And it finally caught up to us. We were down 3 of going into the season what we would have called our top 4 pitchers, and it's not exactly easy to win college baseball games, especially against teams like USF that can really hit. And I thought they played really well defensively too. I think that kind of got overshadowed with everything that kind of happened within the game. But USF made a lot of plays in the outfield that I thought were kind of unexpected of them and not something that I had seen them do to this point in the year. But all in all, I mean, it's still a 2-1 week. Still top 10 in RPI, still in the top 6 of the majority of polls. So I saw a lot of doom and gloom last night, but I don't think it's quite as dark as maybe everybody thinks it is.
ECU now 37-9, 16-5 in the American. They extend their lead in the league to 3 games with 6 games to go because UTSA lost 2 out of 3 against Wichita State at home. USF goes to UTSA this weekend. Jonathan Wagner, your thoughts on the Pirates taking the series from the Bulls?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, it felt weird not having a game on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I think that was a good thing. And it was kind of nice for everyone, I think all of us, to just have a week to rest, and then for the pitching staff, obviously, with the injuries going on. And then going into the weekend, I mean, on Friday, Trey was Trey, and we've said just about everything you can about Trey Savage and just how dominant he is. He's one of the best pitchers we've ever seen, maybe the best, I don't know. But yeah, he did his thing. He got a big win on Friday to start the series, and then I got the text on Saturday saying, I heard we're not going to play today. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. And that set up a very long day on Sunday. And yeah, I mean, you found a way to win the first one, and the second one was a frustrating one. You were never really out of it, but you also never really felt like you were right there either. So it was just a frustrating game. I agree. I think they just looked flat to me, but that's so tough to do. Just play a game, sit around for hours, and then come back and have to play again, and especially when it's so late at night. So it was tough, but 2-1 weekend is still, in the grand scheme of things, you're happy with that. I know right now you kind of have to be perfect to get a top 8 seed. Now, I know we'll get into all that later, but it feels like your margin of error is 0, so that just adds to the frustration of that Sunday loss. But in the end, you went 2-1. You did it without 3 of your best pitchers. So it was a successful week.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that you've won 10 in a row and you still feel like you have to win 11 just to be perfect to get to where you want to go. But you're right, we'll get into all that. I mean, the issues on the pitching front were exacerbated by the food poisoning situation with South Florida. I don't know what they ate. I heard that they got their food from the hotel they were staying at. Not 100% sure what hotel they were staying at, so I don't want to try and guess at that and throw them under the bus. But not an ideal situation. Cliff Godwin went in pretty in-depth for the show today on 94.3 The Game. You can check that out. on the 94.3 The Game Facebook page. Basically said Billy Mole called and was like, "Hey, players," or something like that, maybe a few more, and you know, a handful of more pitchers as well available. And the conference decided to not only make them play Sunday, but make them play a doubleheader, which Cliff Godwin said they tried to say, "Hey, let's just play one game Sunday." And according to Cliff, they said for the integrity of the league, we have to play two games. What does that even mean, Scott? The integrity of the league.
Well, last year I believe Houston played one less game than us. I don't remember if that became a factor or not. I think we still clinched like with 3 games left anyway. So,
I want to say ECU ended up winning by the half game, so maybe
or
that has
was
something
it?
to do with it.
Maybe
I'll
that's
look it up.
Maybe that's what it was. They didn't want us to win the league by half game, or maybe it has more to do with the bottom of the league and USF not getting an extra. In theory, what would likely have been a loss. Looking ahead, obviously they won, so great for them. But only the top 8 make it in, so it could be a factor for some of the teams at the bottom of the league not wanting USF to have one less opportunity to lose.
So ECU last year did end up winning by a half game, 18-6. Houston went 17-6. So I mean, maybe that played a role, but I don't think UTSA is going to come within that close. And I think it again just stresses ECU and USF, which is obviously at a not at the stage ECU is right now in terms of postseason picture. But this is just another example of the American not really being a baseball league, like not being baseball savvy is how I would put it.
Yeah, it's not a baseball savvy league, and then even the teams that are in the league, they just don't seem to take it seriously. I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but we all saw UTSA's field, FAU's radio setup, and all that stuff, and I mean, it's all a joke. So, I mean, it's just that kind of stuff, and then it starts at the top with the league and this kind of stuff. I mean, I think Cliff was right to be mad, and it is annoying, and you got to think too, from at least from my point of view, you play on Friday, you don't play on Saturday because USF doesn't have enough players to field a team because they have food poisoning or whatever and they're throwing up. Then you're going to turn around and make them play 2 games the next day. Like, I'd think for health concerns, I'd say play 1 game the next day and call it at that. And clearly USF wasn't at full strength on either game on Sunday. So that's a whole nother issue. But yeah, it's frustrating, and it is frustrating for a team like ECU. And I'm not trying to, stand above the rest or whatever, but ECU is above the rest in this conference, and they have been for a while. And it is frustrating because I think ECU does deserve better from a conference standpoint, and that starts with how seriously the league takes it, and it starts with the quality of the teams around them, and it all sucks, and it's really frustrating.
Leighton says, so we let Mike Oresco throw out the first pitch, and then the AAC screws us. Yes, well, was this the long game weekend? Did Oresco plant the food poisoning at the USF hotel just to force a Sunday doubleheader? It was kind of ironic that happened, and I don't know why that even happened. But look, I like Mike Oresco. I don't think he really had anything to do with this situation, but I do feel like the American could help out his teams more. Adam McMunn says the AAC is 11th in RPI with no teams in the top 100 outside of ECU, and the league does nothing to help ECU. Yeah, no team. What is it? Charlotte's like one right outside, as is UTSA, Scott.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just garbage.
UTSA was in the low 90s, and then they are now 107. Charlotte's 106. Wichita's 112. Tulane's 127. Columbia's 108. The fact that Columbia is a better RPI team than almost anyone in our league. So it's a tough look.
Yeah, and it just it just gets frustrating, guys, that ECU is forced to sweep. Now they did hold at 9 in the RPI, but I mean, I feel like, am I wrong in saying that in the national seed picture, I feel like ECU's got to go at least 5-1 in the league with probably that one loss going at Tulane. I guess on the road at Tulane won't kill you in the RPI, but the Rice series is going to be the brutal one. So I don't know, guys. Like, what do y'all think? We can go ahead and get into this discussion. What do y'all think ECU needs to finish in the RPI to have a shot at a top 8 seed? Like, if let's say, for instance, they're not top 8, is 12 good enough, or do they have to be top 10? Do they have to be top 8 based on the committee, or do we just not know because of the committee? Wags.
Yeah, to me, I think you don't know because I do think the committee, it changes year to year. Some years it feels like they go strictly based on RPI, and other weeks maybe, or other years maybe they don't. But this year with the teams around ECU, to me, it feels like you need to be top 8 to get top 8 if you're ECU, just because we just talked about the conference, and I do think that's a big factor. So, right now at 9, okay, I'll say top 9, maybe 10, depending. But below that, to me, I think you're out. And I just think there's a lot of good teams in the top 8 right now. And in my field today, I dropped ECU to 9. I hated to do it, but just look at the teams. I think ECU is in a position to where it matters more what the teams around them do than it does what ECU does, and that sucks. And ECU can go perfect the rest of the way, and it still might not be enough. It just really might not be, because a team like, look at Georgia. They're top 5 in the RPI. They're 13-11 in the SEC, 35-12, and they're a team. I think they're in the top 8 discussion. I think a team like, South Carolina, if they win this weekend against Georgia, the winner of that's going to be right there with ECU. So it's a crowded field in the top 8. I think getting to 16 seeds is the bottom of the 16 is a little weaker right now. Maybe it has been in the past, but the top 8 is very strong. And there's a lot of contenders for it. I think there's probably 10, 11, 12 teams that could fight for a top 8. So unfortunately, you're ECU. I think you're kind of out of room. Even if you go perfect, it still might not be enough.
I'll just say right now, ECU, what's the record now? 37-9. If they go 47, no, what would that be? 8 wins, 45, and then sweep the tournament, what would that be? 49-7. If they go 49-7 and don't, and conference champions, tournament champions, and they are not a national seed, I'm quitting. I'm done. What's the point? That's my take. Scott, what do you think on top 10 RPI? Or do you think that's where ECU has to be?
Yeah, I think top 10 makes a lot of sense. It kind of depends. Like, if you're not outside the top 10, then it becomes, well, who are you jumping over to get the seed? I think Indiana State doesn't really have a case at a top 8. They're in the top 10 right now. They closed the year they had Valpo at home, who's like a 200-something team. They won't be there. Just the math isn't going to work for them. They don't have enough good on their schedule to kind of overcome it. Then you look at a team like Georgia, like Wags talked about, and they're 13-11 in league play right now. And if they end at 15-15, you probably get in over them, even if they're in the top 8. Because that would mean they would have lost one of the series, maybe even gotten swept. If they lose this series at South Carolina, they would mean they had lost 5 SEC road series and won 0. I think that's kind of a hard case for top 8. People talk a lot about the committee like they're just some ambiguous group that can't think for themselves. I do think they, do look at these teams a little bit beyond just, hard metrics. But, then South Carolina could be in the top 10 in RPI, and they're kind of in the same line as Georgia as far as what's their conference record. So I think if we want it to be based off of our merits and not the bad of someone else, then we need to be top 10. And probably being closer to 8 or 9 makes it a lot easier for the committee. And then what UNC does matters. If UNC ends up as a 2 or 3 RPI team, which with the ACC tournament, that could certainly happen, and we have a series win over them, that's something that a lot of other top 8 candidates are not going to have. And it's something that I think I talked about. I posted a story on the teams vying for that position. There's like Arkansas doesn't have a top 10 RPI win. UNC doesn't have one. So, what we do have makes up for some of what we won't have. But if we want it to be because of what we've done, then staying in the top 8 or 9 is going to be really, really important.
All right. Yeah, I misspoke. A lot of good thoughts there. I guess I said 49-7. I can't do math. 49-9, I guess, is what it would be technically. But still, 49-9, whatever the hell it would be. 8 plus 4, that would be 49-9. No, 51-9, right? Y'all double check me here. I can't.
We're 37-9 right now. So if we win 12 more games, we'll be 49-9. And I think if we have
Okay.
less than 10 losses and we don't get a national seed, that they should burn the whole tournament down.
Yeah, I'm quitting.
I agree.
49-9, I'm quitting.
Just want to clarify. I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. Well, we know you're UNC fans.
I just don't think that's what will happen, which sucks. But it is BS if it doesn't.
Yep, 49-9. If that's not a national seed, then there's problems.
The 13th seed paired with Arkansas. Who's the 4 seed for some reason.
Now you got me choked up. All right, let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. Chris Allen says the AAC is the Scotty Montgomery of conference leadership. I wouldn't go that far. If losing a 7-inning game at home by 1 run keeps us from being a top 8 seed, the system is broken and also rigged, mostly rigged. I just think there's still too much hockey left to really know how much this loss is going to hurt ECU, and if it will at the end of the day. Trying to sift through some of these comments here. All right, Chris Allen wants to know, is Tuesday's game against Duke the most important regular season game ever? And if so, how do we ECU it? I don't think it's the most important regular season game ever. I think we're getting very caught up in the moment there. Wags, your thoughts on that statement?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it feels like a little bit of a stretch to me, but it is a big game. Don't get me wrong. And to this point, maybe it's the biggest game of the season, but that's right now. I mean, the state game last week or 2 weeks ago was the biggest game of the season at that point. So, yeah, I mean, it's big because it's your best RPI opportunity left. And it's one of those things, if you win that game, then I might give you the luxury of losing a game at Tulane and, give you a little bit of wiggle room there. But if you lose this game against Duke, then you really do have to be perfect and you have no margin for error, just because you don't gain as much for RPI. So, yeah, it's not the most important regular season game ever, but I'm okay if you want to say the season to this point, then it is. I'd be willing to go that far.
They do say every time you win, the next game's that much bigger. So I would venture to say it's the biggest game of the season. And then once ECU wins, then Friday's game will be the biggest game of the season. Scott, your take?
Yeah, it's the biggest game because it's the next one, right? I don't know if that's really true. But, I mean, there's been some really important games. And I think it's really hard to pinpoint a single game as the most important regular season game ever. And, I think if it was the only way that I think you could really make that call is if it's a situation where you go into that Saturday game in the conference play and it's when you win the conference, lose, you don't. I think that maybe makes it most important regular season conference game ever. I mean, in the scheme of this season, I would put that Sunday game at UTSA as a more important regular season game right now than this current Duke game would have been. But yeah, I mean, and then here's the funny thing about it, right? Is Duke is currently 22 in RPI. They have like a 31-point lead over 26. If we beat them, and Ole Miss and Vandy and whoever else is right behind them in RPI win on their midweeks, well, now Duke's 26 in RPI and not a Q1 win. So these things are so fluid. It's hard to pinpoint, anything. But again, if we lose to Duke, Duke is probably jumping up 5 spots in the RPI, and our Q1 record gets worse. So, I will never call a single regular season game the most important regular season game ever because I think it's really impossible to tell until you start looking back at the season as a whole.
And this game in itself shouldn't be really all that important. It just is because of ECU's dog crap conference. So this is the last chance ECU will have any shot at quad 3 or above. Like I know it's a quad 1 game, but is at Tulane, would that be quad 3? Maybe quad
Yeah,
2 because it's on the road. I don't know what they're
I think
sitting at.
it's 3 because they're over 100. Hold on, let me.
But I just feel like ECU is already 5-1 in quad 1 games. This game should not be that important, but it is because ECU's got such few opportunities to move the RPI in the better direction.
Where's Tulane in RPI? I don't have it up in front of me, but I have the.
So quad 3 is 121 to 240 away. So they would be in quad 3 because I think they're like 130 something.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 131.
And the other factor is too, like if the baseball committee is smart, which again, they're probably not going to look at this, but like ECU just played a doubleheader, and they're not going to have two of their best arms available for this game. So like ECU is going to have C/D level pitching from what they usually have, and it should be weighted as much as it is, but it is because of ECU's conference schedule. So, Golf Yoda says, I think if we lose to Duke, the committee will pick them as a national seed. I don't think they'll do that. I think Duke would have to go on a run, which they're capable of in the with the upcoming schedule in ACC tournament. But they're not going to take that much stock in this midweek game, I don't think, guys.
I think Duke's a peg below the rest of the pack. You look at Duke; their big thing is their non-conference. They went 18-4 in non-conference so far, but their non-conference strength of schedule is 246 and non-conference RPI is 64. That's not a top 8 seed. And so even if they win this game, they might move up. I've had them as a 16 seed the last 2 weeks. So it might move them up into the 12 range or so, 12 to 13, maybe. But then they still have to take care of business on the weekend. But for them, the only thing that really matters is their weekend, the last weekend of the regular season against North Carolina. If they want to move up and make a sizable jump, that's when they do it.
ECU will start Eric Ritchie tomorrow, and Wyatt Lunsford, Shingman, Zach Root unavailable per Cliff Galvin. They will be available for a limited amount against Tulane. Duke starting Andrew Healy, a freshman who was a weekend starter at the beginning of the year. He's missed, I think, 2 months with an injury. Duke coming off playing Longwood. They use some of their top arms as far as starters to keep them on rotation, on regular rest, but I would expect to see some of Duke's best relievers. ECU had a clear disadvantage here, guys, in terms of arms, and the offense is going to have to bring it. The crowd's going to have to bring it. It is a big game. This is going to have to be I think, a slugfest win for ECU if they're going to have any shot, Scott.
Oh, 100%. And, Duke has been a little bit susceptible to giving up some runs. They got stomped by Campbell in a midweek game, 7-inning midweek game not too long ago. Longwood, by the way, birthplace of Alec Makaravich. So there's a fun fact for you. Surprised he didn't want to transfer.
Just can't get away.
Yeah, I think this is a game that ECU's offense will have to win for them, kind of like Sunday night was. And I think our offense let us down a little bit. And I look forward to seeing how they respond. Heaney, like you talked about. Is it Heaney or Healy? You got me very confused on who's
So
starting.
Andrew Healy is the pitcher's name. Andrew Heaney is the
Rangers pitcher.
Yeah, the guy who used to pitch for the Angels.
There you go. So
he's pitched against the Mariners like 75 times.
He started today. That's why it's even more confusing.
Oh, yeah.
At the games today. But so, this is a guy that Duke started, I think, on the weekends before he was hurt, but he hasn't pitched in a while. So, I don't think he'll have a long leash. Going into the year, I think Duke's strength was their bullpen, but I don't really know that that's been the case over the last month when Duke has kind of gone from this kind of niche pick to maybe even to make it to Omaha or maybe even win it all to now as a team that I think is more than likely a 2 seed and could very well be the 2 in the Greenville Regional. So this could look to be as a preview for that game. So, I think this is a game maybe we need 7 or 8 runs to win, and we certainly have the offense to do that. And I do think our bats will respond to kind of their lackluster performance on Sunday night.
I saw that they have hit 80-plus home runs, and they have like 5 or 6 guys with double-digit home runs. Wags, what do you know about Duke as the national college baseball writer for 0-3? How much you've been able to watch the Blue Devils?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the year, I was very high. They were one of my preseason 8 teams that I picked to go to Omaha. And it was largely due to their pitching staff, but they've kind of done it both ways. Yeah, their offense, they pretty much rebuilt their infield coming into the year. I think opening day, every guy in their infield, there may have been one guy that returned, but everyone else was a guy that was either in as a freshman or a transfer. And so I wasn't quite sure how it would come together, but man, they have 10 guys on their team, position players, that have at least 22 starts this season, and none of them are hitting worse than 260. And yeah, they have five guys. Yeah, five guys with double digit homers. So yeah, it's one of those things where defensively you have to be on it. And we're already shorthanded pitching wise, and that really worries me. And just with the guys that we're going to have available, it's not many, and it's not the guys you would typically want in this type of game. So your defense needs to show up first of all, and if they do, I think you have a chance. But if the defense is giving Duke more opportunities offensively, then they will make you pay for it. And yeah, it's just pitching wise. This game really worries me, just from a pure win loss standpoint. Nothing else, everything else aside, just strictly the game. It does worry me because of the pitching, and I do think Duke is a team that offensively they will make you pay, and pitching wise, even if their top guys aren't available, I'm still going to trust their B or C level guys more than the guys that ECU is going to have gone. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, if I was making the odds in Vegas on this one, even with ECU playing at home, I can't even. I mean, Duke probably has not won at ECU since the '90s. I mean, it has been a long time. I would say Duke's the favorite just based on the arms they'll have available, but I would not count out ECU at home just because it's tough to come to Greenville beat the Pirates when they have a full house, which it should be on Tuesday night. All right. Let's see. Going through some of these other comments. Johnny Robertson will hit some of these random ones. Wants to know, how did Columbia allow their baseball schedule to have a 10-day dead period in May? Are they and they're playing only 43 regular season games? Just curious. I don't know, other than Ivy League is my guess. Scott, do you have any insight here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of you can play up to 56 games, but they don't require you to do so. And I do know, like, most of the Ivy League teams kind of take off exam time. The ACC also does it. So I don't know how many games UNC or Duke have scheduled for this year, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if it was more along the 50-ish game lines. Most teams try to get to 56. I wouldn't hate ECU dropping a couple um, extra midweeks on those 5 game weeks to just play a 54 or 53 game schedule either. So I don't have any inside information into the Columbia Lions, but that's what I would assume.
All right, TH Dameron says, we got 6 hits Sunday night, get 3 more hits, and we win that game by 2 runs. Cliff nailed it. The position players did not come out with the same energy. And I was in the ballpark Sunday. It was just dead by ECU weekend standard, just because the crowd wasn't great. The people that were there were trying. The team, I don't think they lacked focus. It was just like, man, you sit around for 4 hours after having already played a game. And I think the whole 7 inning thing is kind of like, you can tell guys, hey, this is only 7 innings. But like, as a baseball player, you're kind of geared to really get going in the the fifth, sixth, seventh inning. Usually the sixth, seventh is when the game intensity kind of peaks in a game like that. And I feel like if the game went 9 innings, ECU would have won. That, I know that's kind of a lame thing to say, but that's just my take on it. Kurt Cohn says, I never thought the CAA would be a better fit for ECU baseball, but it might be. And yeah, CAA is ahead of the American and RPI, guys. Is it time to go back to I can't even say Colonial anymore, whatever it's called
Coastal.
now. The Coastal. Is it time to go back to the Coastal?
Yeah, they might get 3 teams in, right? I mean, Northeastern, UNCW, and who's winning the league now?
Charleston, yep.
Yeah. So good for them.
Skull Pirate says, can we have Scott walk us through the mathematical formula for the RPI? All right, Scott, break it down.
I have no idea.
I think it's pretty simple. Like,
It has something to do with your opponents. It's
your opponent's
your win
wins.
percentage, your opponent's win percentage, and your opponent's win percentage. But other than that, I don't know if there's like an actual numerical value for it. But
their rating percentage index. I'm going to read this straight off Wikipedia so you guys can take it or leave it. In its current formula, the index comprises a team's winning percentage, 25%, its opponent's winning percentage, 50%, and the winning percentage of those opponents, 25%. The opponent's winning percentage and the winning percentage of those opponents both comprise the strength of schedule. Thus, the strength of schedule accounts for 75% of the RPI calculation and is 2/3 its opponent's winning percentage and 1/3 its opponent's winning percentage. All right, you guys got all that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Wags died.
No,
Apparently, the internet just died.
I think it's you, Igo. You're the
Yeah, you're the
going
one
on?
who's frozen. I see Scott moving normal, not you.
Guys, apparently reading the RPI formula will break the internet.
Try to take the easy way out and blame it on me.
What is going on right now?
Oh, and we should, while we were
gosh.
talking about RPI, we should also address this is how everybody feels when they play us in basketball comments. Basketball uses net.
Well,
Net takes into account the margin and by which you win. Also, I don't think net uses as much of a weight on like home and away splits. So it's not the same thing. It is drastically different for basketball and baseball.
I think we lost Igo.
We did. The wind.
I heard him say "welp," and then he kind of looked away.
Now he's
And now he doesn't look back. I'm never gonna let him live this one down. You guys don't do it either.
950.
Oh man. So I guess we'll just kind of keep it rolling here.
I don't know what happens if his goes out. Oh,
wait.
Oh, no.
hey, double the ICO, double the fun.
There's two Igos.
Keep it this way. Oh,
There we
man.
are.
Hey, I literally can add an empty box of myself. Dude, somehow I'm never reading the RPI formula again. Apparently, it just broke the internet. Did I make it through the whole formula?
Yeah.
There's the whole thing. It was
Okay.
opponents.
Yeah, you got to a point to where like you were transitioning to one of us. It's just you never really finished transition.
As soon as I got back on my so I checked my internet and it's good, but for some reason my internet connection via StreamYard just died. I think the RPI just I don't know what happened.
The bots
That's what happens
like
to me.
talking about their boy RPI.
Yeah. Sorry, AI. Sorry, bots. My bad. Now I know how Wags feels. It's a lonely feeling just seeing like little black boxes spinning. That's what happened to me.
and then you're talking. You don't know if anybody can hear you. And
Yeah, I was just over here talking to myself.
Yeah,
It's
and then
among
you
the most
leave.
disorienting things when you see yourself frozen and you're still talking, and you're like, I don't know if they're reacting to me at all.
That was tough. But hey, I guess it kept rolling. The stream kept going when I was gone.
It did.
Yeah, we're still up.
What the hell?
So
All
far.
right. That was super weird. Double IGO too.
At least I didn't lose it at the same time, and it was just Scott going solo.
That is true. That would have been tough.
I would
All
have
right.
been just reading the RPM. We'd have been doing the math, checking the numbers.
Oh man, this can't be real. Johnny Robertson says the hats off to University of Maryland Eastern Shore for almost winning the game on Saturday. They lost 10-9 to Lemoyne. What the hell is Lemoyne?
They're out of Iowa. I don't
You
think
bet-
they're D1.
UMass is now 0-41, but they have an RPI that's better than 8-31 Arkansas Pine Bluff.
It's true.
Don't make me go into the RPI formula again.
Hey, Lemoyne is 18-24 overall, 12-14 in Northeast Conference.
So they're Division One.
Arkansas Pine Bluff has the worst RPI in the country while also playing against the worst strength of schedule in the country.
They must be playing like
that's
9
pretty
Division
impressive.
One teams or something.
305
bad.
teams, and you have the worst schedule, and you're in Arkansas.
At least they've won 8 games.
That's true.
I feel like half my comments disappeared, so hopefully I'm not missing any. All right, I'll try to get to some of these. Yeah, somebody asked what was ECU's RPI going to the regionals in 22 when they were national seed. Is there a way to look that up?
It is. Give me a second.
Okay.
But I want to say it was like 14. Like it wasn't.
I just remember it was a shock
Dang.
that ECU was picked as a national seed that year.
Well, it didn't make sense. But rankings about week.
And the way they unveiled it.
All right, let's see. We were so there's 15 weeks in the regular season, right? That sound right?
Something like that.
We were 20 after 15 weeks in RPI, 11 after 16, and we ended at 18.
I think 11.
There was no week we were above 10 in RPI. Oh, sorry, that was predicted RPI. We were after 15 weeks we were 25, and we were 8 after 16 weeks. I think that was.
So went from 25 to 8 by winning the conference tournament.
I believe so. Well, then maybe that was after winning the regional. Does that make sense?
There's no way they were 25 in RPI, right?
Yeah, so they went. We got as high as 80. Well, we were as high as 236 after week 3. Then hit 80 week 9. Then went 54, 52, 52, 37, 32, 25, 8, and ended at 18.
Okay. All right, somebody says I believe it was 8. And we got people saying I believe it was 10. We'll figure it out. All right. Let's see here. ECU will host a regional. Chuck says, what are some of the candidates for the number 2 seed? I'll let you guys handle this. Duke is a possibility, obviously. And again, very early, NC State. What about others? We'll start with Wags or Scott. Feel free to just throw names out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough just because I feel like a lot of the normal candidates you would think are candidates to host. I think NC State could host. They're in the mix. I have them a little bit off, but they're probably your number 1 candidate to come. And, South Carolina, if they don't end up hosting, I think they're a candidate. I think Georgia, if they don't end up hosting, I think they're going to end up hosting. But if they don't, they're a candidate. And, you would have had teams like Coastal, but Coastal's on an 8-game losing streak, and I have Coastal out of the tournament because of it. They went from hosting 2 weeks ago for me to completely out of the tournament and one of my first 4 teams out. So, yeah, I think you could get I would say like a Louisiana, Southern Miss, UNC Wilmington. They could play their way up into a 2. That group of teams, I think they're candidates, but I think more than likely those teams are going to go to an SEC or an ACC host just because of the number of ACC and SEC at-larges behind them. So, yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, there's the 2 line is honestly pretty weak. I think you have your teams that just miss out on hosting, and then after that, it's kind of like you're struggling to figure out which teams are going to be a 2. So, I don't know. It's wide open right now. Today, I had State as my 2 in Greenville. So, I don't know. Just depends.
Yeah, I throw Wake Forest in there too as a potential 2 seed. They're 12-12 in league play. I think they're more than likely a 2. Right now, they would probably be on the playing a high teens 1 seed as far for me as a 2 seed. But if they lose another weekend or 2, then they could definitely slip to in the middle of the pack 2 seeds. Troy is another team that's a possibility. I don't think it's likely. Alabama, same thing. Georgia Tech, I would not completely rule out yet. They're kind of 40th or so in RPI. They have a couple big weekends left and definitely have opportunity to move themselves up to a potential 2 seed, especially if they do well in Charlotte. I believe is where the ACC tournament is this year. Outside of them, South Carolina is a possibility. I don't think they're very likely. I think they end up somewhere like Duke or NC State if they host. And then there's the West Coast teams, right? I mean, if Oregon State has another couple bad weekends and they're a 2 seed, maybe they get shipped out here. I don't think that's quite as likely, and I think it would. Last week we were talking about West Virginia, so I don't think West Virginia is a 2 seed anymore. So it is really up in the air, like Wag said. It's interesting that there's probably 8 to 10 teams that are really locked in as ones right now. And there's probably about that many that are kind of locked in as twos. And then after that, I mean, there's a bunch of teams like Coastal, like Wag said, and even UNCW they look like twos right now, but they could be out of the tournament in a week. And I mean, really, this tournament is as unique as I've seen as a fan from that perspective, where whoever the high teams in each seed are, I feel like they're pretty locked into those seeds. Even the 3 seeds, teams like Utah and some of the other West Coast programs, I feel like they're pretty like locked in as more than likely a 3. But beyond that, it's still wildly up in the air.
Somebody asked, is Randy Mazey still at West Virginia? Yes, he is. I want to say this might be his last year.
It's his last hurrah for him and the guy at Coastal.
Yeah, so I mean, either of those teams could be a 3 in Greenville, theoretically. Somebody said, Kaysen says, saw an absurd 2 for us today in Vandy. Vandy might not even make the tournament at this rate. Right, guys? I mean, I guess they would still be in as of today, but they are 11-13 in the league, down to 26 in RPI. What do you think, Wags, on Vandy?
Yeah, they're a weird team. They always rely on, obviously, their freshman recruiting, and I think they kind of got hurt in the draft. And they're not the same Vandy team, but I've had them off the hosting line, I think, a little longer than most people have, and they've been a 2 for me for a few weeks now. And I think they're still a 2 right now. And they play in the SEC. Their RPI is going to keep propping them up into that range, especially when, like we said earlier, it's a kind of a weak 2 line right now. So a team like Vandy will benefit from that. I don't see them falling to a 3. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And
they've got Tennessee and Kentucky to finish. I mean, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think if they win one of those, they're a 2. If they lose both, they're probably not in. So, like, they're either a 2 or not in, like kind of like we were talking before.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If we get Vandy as our 2 seed, that's not the Vandy team that we played in the Super Regional. They are nowhere near that good.
I'll take it.
They're still a quality team, but they're much, much more beatable than the one that we played with Rocker and Leiter.
They're also 3-10 on the road. So, I mean, I see a lot of people complaining if ECU hosts, they don't want State as a 2 seed, but I think State would be one of the more beatable 2 seeds. Yeah, I know people are getting tired of the AMAC stuff, but like just their lack of pitching, they can hit home runs, which is a little scary. But you know what 2 seed isn't going to be able to hit home runs in Clark McNair Stadium come June? So it is what it is. ECU can also hit home runs. All right. 90 run pass. Kirkpatrick says if we lose to Campbell for the 27th time in a row, they should send us as a 4 seed to Siberia. I can't take it again. Yeah, guys, if the Pirates can't beat Campbell this year to close up the regular season as their final midweek game, it's going to be frustrating. It would be a costly loss. Unfortunately, Campbell not really a quality win anymore either right now, right?
Q3. They're 81st in RPI, and I think Campbell's finding. Well, one, they lost Grant Nip for a huge chunk of the year, and he was kind of
back.
He's back now, but he was definitely a huge part of their offense. And I think they're finding that playing really good teams every weekend really takes its toll on you in a way that the Big South did not provide them with teams to play in the past. So, I mean, look, we need to beat Campbell just to get the monkey off our back. That game that we played with them at the beginning of the year was kind of sloppy from our perspective. It's one of the sloppier games that I think we've played all year. It was also very cold, and like they were still, a team that had hosting aspirations at that point. I think Campbell's year has probably played a much bigger toll on them, but then at the same time they beat Duke like 18-4 2 weeks ago. So they're a team that can come in. They're going to smash the ball. They will hit a home run in that game, and they're probably going to hit more than one. So we need to be ready and we need to play well. But I do agree. Maybe we should let the team know if they lose to Campbell, they have to be a 4 seed and play in Nebraska.
So not Siberia?
Well, it's the same thing. So.
Yeah. So apparently, Team Boneyard Instagram has posted a video of looks like a new scoreboard going up in Clark LeClaire. Have y'all seen this?
No.
It's
I'll
like
look at
a it's like a ribbon scoreboard. It looks like,
Well, it's about time.
and there's speculation that we have a new board for the count and the players. I'm assuming on the press box. I mean, it just makes sense to put a ribbon board on the press box because nobody in the jungle can see anything, right?
Do we have a more visible pitch clock /
That
hitter clock?
Yeah, I mean that would be welcome as well. I
Okay,
didn't
I'm looking
see.
at it now.
I just saw like it's on their story on their
Yeah.
Instagram. It looks it just has strike out ball. I can't tell what the first word says because it's like looks like air, or hit air,
Yeah.
hit air out strike ball at bat the number. So no pitch clock. Sorry.
Anyone in the outfield for our hitters to know how much time
Yeah.
they have left to get into the ball.
I think there is one by the scoreboard, right? In the outfield.
Oh yeah, there is. Well, maybe we need one that you can see from third base.
Just put one everywhere. All right. Let's see here. Golf Yoda says, could Wilcoxon have thrown out that base runner on third during the seventh last night when they had runners on first and third, and that guy just casually started walking home? I don't remember that.
I don't either.
Am I blanking on this situation?
I don't remember.
Oh, he's saying there was I think it was because it was a hit by pitch. Is what it was. When the guy started walking home, it was a hit by pitch. So no, it's a dead ball. He had to go back. I got a text from Kaysen who said Campbell, as of right now, will not make the CAA tournament. Only the top 6 go, and they are well out of it. So how about that? Campbell will not even make the conference tournament. So they are 100% going to try and beat ECU if that's not the case, unless they can still mathematically make their way into the tournament. But I would expect this because that'll be their Super Bowl, guys.
Well,
Always.
what a novel concept to only have your top 6 teams make your conference tournament and not make 8 teams travel to Clearwater, Florida, 7 of which have no shot at making the tournament without winning it. So, cool idea, Coastal Athletic Conference.
Yeah. Yep. Pirates need to pack their bags and head to the Coastal. In baseball only. All right, Kurt Cohen says, I heard Cliff say that the Alabama coach texted him and asked about this weekend. Another coach there is the former coach at Maryland. Do you think Cliff would ever be interested in doing a home-to-home series with Alabama? I would love to see it. I don't know if it'll happen, guys. I mean, we talk about it all the time with the conference being as bad as it is. Why not? I mean, why not try to schedule an SEC team home and home? But would Alabama agree to it?
I think the problem isn't so much getting them to agree to us going there, it's them coming here. Alabama's non-conference was Manhattan at home, Valparaiso at home. They played in the Frisco Classic, which did have Arizona and Dallas Baptist in it. Then they had Lipscomb at home, and that's it. So I think our chances of doing something like that would be more likely to get Alabama to come to the LeClaire Classic, or participating in something like the Frisco Classic with Alabama along with somebody else. And I still think Durham is a prime location to have one of these like early season multi-team events. And I don't know why it hasn't happened, but I would love to see, like a ECU, NC State, UNC, something like that, an Ole Miss, Alabama type team, and then, a Maryland or someone along those lines play in one of these like 4-team tournaments in Durham to where everybody really comes out of those a winner. Even the teams that don't perform well, they're not held to the same standard as if you were to lose, one of 2 in a in a series against a good team as you are if you play 3 good teams over a weekend and don't necessarily come out on top. So I still think Durham is itching for something like that. And D1 has now Shock and Aaron Fitz, so I think as much as we've harped on them today, maybe they can put something together.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be. I mean, I think it'd be more than ideal. There's too many good baseball teams in the area not to do something like that, and you can get other teams coming in, but maybe one day instead of all these Texas tournaments. All right. Jonathan Woodall says Starling should have gone to first with 2 outs instead of trying to step on second, cost us a run, made it a 2-run game instead of 1. It was a high hopper, tricky play. I do think he could have gotten the guy at first, but he had that and the tough hop. What did y'all thought he got shielded by the umpire? Cliff said he thought it hit a sprinkler.
Yeah,
No, that was a play. That was the play before that.
Yeah, two separate plays.
Yeah, there was one where the umpire definitely kind of was in front of him. I don't know how much he was blocking his view, but I think Starr maybe didn't get directly behind the ball so that he could stay with his eyes on it. And then it took a weird hop and got by him. And then you're right, like that particular play that Jonathan is talking about it was a high hopper. I think it would have been a bang play at first too. I think he had 2 coin flips to go to second or to go to first. He chose second and lost it. Had he gone to first, I mean, I think it's still a coin flip. Who knows whether he gets the guy out or not? It's just, I mean, there were a lot of plays like that in that game where USF made kind of the plays when they needed to, and ECU, just didn't. I mean, quite frankly, it was just, even in the
Baseball.
first inning, there was a bunch of just kind of soft ground balls that found holes, and it's just baseball. I mean, it happens sometimes.
That's why it's hard to win 10 games in a row. Golf Yoda says, what? Some of these comments. I got to read this. Uncrustables umpire influenced the boys to screw ECU is all. He's referring to the dude who threw Josh Groves out for the sandwich. He was on the crew this weekend. So, yeah. Golf Yoda says, what was up with the nonsense called on Riley delay a game on a hitter? I mean, I kind of gave my thoughts on my show, guys. I'll let y'all take the stage here. But basically, probably the right call, but they haven't called it all year. And we're up in the press box, and we can hear them reset the clock, and they do it at random times all the time. Makes 0 sense. So why in this situation are you going to enforce it? It makes no sense. But I don't know, Wags. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and if I'm remembering correctly, the same at bat, I think 2 pitches before, Riley was showing bunt, pivotal runner on first, and he pulls it back, and the ball was at his chin almost, and it's called a strike. And yeah, then that happens. It completely changed the momentum of the game, I thought. And yeah, I think that was in the 7th inning, if I'm not wrong. So it was when you absolutely had to move that runner over if that's what they were going to do, which they did. Yeah, it completely changed the momentum, I thought. I think you get the leadoff guy on, and you get Riley on base. If he can get a bunt down, his speed, that's a tough play on defense too. So to me, it was stupid. I think the strike call was stupid to begin with, and then the pitch clock violation. It's the first time it's happened against ECU like that. So again, I was watching on the ESPN Plus, so I didn't have a view on the pitch clock. And let's be real, nobody in the stadium had a real view on the pitch clock because it's all it's all the umpires. So I'm not going to argue against it just because their time was probably more accurate, but it just sucked, and it came really at the worst time. I think it really kind of sucked the life out of the team that they had just kind of gotten when they needed it.
Yeah, I think, and Sky, you can expand on this too, but I just feel like 2-1, 2-2 is such a big difference there. And I think if it's 2-1, you can slash, you can bunt, you can just hit. It changes everything. So I just hated the call at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be some game sense. And I think, when you look at in football, the delay of game call, they see the clock hit 0, then they look and see if the play started, right? So there's some time in there between when the clock hit 0 and then when, if the play hasn't started, then you go in. And then the other thing is, in that part of the game, is he gaining a competitive advantage, right? by delaying the pitcher for a quarter of an extra second. And no is the answer. And I just like, sometimes umpires love to get in there and make it about themselves. And this particular umpiring crew, I think, had a lot of that in them, all the way around, from the sandwich guy's strike zone in the first game being just absolutely the tightest strike zone I think I've seen at Clark LeClaire all season. And then the guy in the second game, didn't he punch out somebody just on a two on the
Sandwich
second strike?
Sandwich guy punched out somebody on a 2-1
Joey
breaking ball.
Brini.
Yeah, punched out Joey Rennie on it. It's just like some of it felt personal, and then you had USF like blatantly arguing balls and strikes from the catcher to the pitcher throughout the whole seventh inning, and it's not addressed. And I think I have a bigger issue if your catcher gets thrown out. How is that not much more of a delay of game and throwing off our situation than a guy who is a half a second behind getting in the batter's box? And also, I mean, the pitch clock's at 12 when that happens. I think that rule needs to be looked at a little bit more. I think as long as you're in the box by 10 or 9, that's fine. I think it's a little bit unfair on the hitters that they have to be in the box and locked in for so much longer than the pitchers do. So, umpiring this year in general, especially in the American, has been pretty terrible, as it usually is in the American with officiating. I mean, it sucks. It's hard to find good umpires, but I guess that's just the case.
Sarah Sanders says pitch clock violation was the right call. My husband is a D1 umpire. And Donnie Run Pasker Patrick says Sarah is Mrs. Uncrustables confirmed. No, I think Sarah, I think it was the right call by the letter of the law, but our issue is, like, where is the consistency? Like, how many times have we seen Cliff Godwin go, give his little number sign, player look down at it, in a key spot, and it not be called? It hasn't been called all year, and this is 46 games. Why is it being called in that moment? I guarantee you there have been other hitter violations, pitcher violations that aren't called, because we're up there in the press box. We can hear when the umpire on the field, Hank asks who's in charge of operating the pitch clock. It is an umpire on the field who's in charge of resetting it. We can hear them because it's attached to an old scoreboard up top. Every time they click reset, it goes beep, 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 and we hear it the whole damn game, and it's the most annoying thing possible. And they just reset it at random times and make 0 sense. That's just not consistent.
And the last thing an umpire on the field needs is to be responsible for something else. So, I don't think replay should be on the field. I don't think that pitch clock should be on the field. I think that having somebody in the press box that's their only role makes so much more sense than trying to make these field umpires, who already have a difficult enough job as it is, not calling balls and strikes correctly. Giving them an extra thing to do that they're going to not do correctly is kind of ridiculous. So, the conference can afford to add one more umpire that's in the press box every game, and I think that's the way to do it.
We also, Sarah also says Jimmy Paler, who was the home plate umpire yesterday, is a Carolina fan, so that's good. Jimmy Paler does a ton of ECU games, though. Sarah also says, try doing the pitch clock in a 2-man crew. My husband hates it. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to do.
I would simply not do it.
That is true. Major respect.
Nobody would notice.
To Miss.
That's a great point.
Yeah, there you go. Just don't worry about it. And that's basically what every other umpire crew has done until the 9th inning, or 7th inning, excuse me, because that was dumb as it is, of yesterday's game. All right, guys. Any Jimmy Paler threw Josh Groves out for having a hot dog on the field? No, that was actually somebody else. Matt Nieder threw Josh Groves out. Jimmy Paler, he was the home plate umpire last night. He was the one that he just punched Riley Johnson out, and I think it was Nieder who also punched Joey Brini out when he had a 2-1 count. Oh man. Must be tough to click a button, Donnie Roderman. It's been a long show. All right, any final questions? Get them in now. Did any of our bold predictions hit last week? I had Parker Bird getting a hit. That obviously did not happen.
I had Ethan Norby going 6 innings. That also did not happen.
I had 5 different guys hitting home runs, and we had 4 in the first 2 games, and
That's tough.
no new player hit a home run in the 5th game. Could have used one.
Tough. ECU, by the way, 6-1 as 6-1 in the stretch without Shinkman and Root. Leighton says, "Who's the guy that punched Starling out at third versus State?" I don't know. I'd have to go back and he did with a big smile on his face. Which umpire couldn't see, so he called time on the home run. That's got to be the worst mistake of all time. That is, gosh, he also Mac. He also works the home game. He's honestly a really good dude. He just made a terrible mistake.
He Jim joisted.
All right, Max Stokes. There you go, Max Stokes. Good guy. Unfortunate situation. All right, let's get into our predictions for the coming week, guys. I've done zero research on Tulane and my bowl predictions, so I'm a little torn here. We'll let Wags go first.
Yeah, I've also done no research. I'm gonna start. Okay, I'll start with the record-wise. Buy myself a little bit of time to think, and you guys are gonna hate me for this, but I think ECU is going to lose against Duke. It's simply just the pitching availability. It's just nobody that I would want pitching in that game is available outside of like an Aaron Groller, who I don't know how long he'll throw for. So I think you lose that game, and then at Tulane, I don't know why all season it's just been kind of screaming at me, and I think Tulane's definitely capable of winning one game. That's all they're going to win, but I think they do win one. So I think it's going to be a 2-2 week. And it's going to come at the worst time, I know, and for the postseason picture. But so I'm going to go 2-2. And bold prediction, God, with the pitching availability, I don't even know if this is bold, but would Charlie Hodges makes an appearance be bold enough?
Yes.
Off the top of the head, it would seem like it.
I mean, he has not made an appearance since March 23rd. He's made 2 appearances all year.
I think it's just the fact that I just so much expect him to pitch tomorrow at some point. Then, yeah, all right, there you go.
It's bold, even though I think it is very possible. I like the pick. Scott?
Yeah, I was going to go 3-1, and then I watched Tulane and Memphis play one of the most boring baseball games I think I've ever watched on Saturday. So I'm going to go 4-0. I just don't think Tulane has a ton of offense. And I just watching a team struggle against Memphis pitching is really hard to give them a lot of credence. But so yeah, I'll go 4-0. I think we win a slugfest, like softball type game tomorrow night against Duke, like 12-10, something like that. Bold prediction, I'll give you 2, one that counts and then one that doesn't. I'll go Starling has 5 extra base hits this week. And my one that does not count is that we will see a Rasmussen home run this weekend at Tulane.
Multiple.
Home runs.
Definitely.
I'm going to go 2-2 as well. I think ECU is just in a tough spot pitching-wise tomorrow, and it's going to take a lot of offense. And then I think ECU wins the first 2 at Tulane, loses Sunday because, again, they kind of run out of pitching with Sheikman, and I feel like Tulane always gets up for ECU. It's going to be tough to sweep them, and it wouldn't be surprised if they push ECU a lot, even though they're not that good. And my bold prediction is my bold prediction is Eric Ritchie. No, I'm not doing that. I was going to say Eric Ritchie doesn't walk anybody. I was going to say Eric Ritchie, no walks, 3 shutout innings, but I can't do it. Hey, he's definitely going to walk somebody. I'm going to say Jaden Winter picks up a win this week.
I like that.
So that's my bold prediction for the week. Jaden Winter gets a win. He's 2-1 on the season in 14 appearances. He had a huge moment the other day. Thought they were going to get it done for him Sunday. I think he gets it done. some point this week. Golf Yoda says bowl prediction: Eric Ritchie doesn't hit someone in the head.
First batter.
Yeah. Hey man, if you're gonna do it, get out of the way. Get out of the way early. Skull says bowl prediction: Cliff gets tossed. We got 2 bowl predictions. Cliff gets tossed. I mean,
if he didn't get tossed Sunday night, I don't know that he's going to do it this year.
I was expecting something. I was expecting after that strike call. I guess he just wanted to be so focused on getting the next play call in, because he kind of went right back to the sheet after being like what's going on. But yeah, that was a good spot for it. We got 3 people saying he'll get tossed tomorrow.
I think he just said so much dumb shit in conference play over the last 10 years that it just nothing surprises him anymore.
Yeah. No, you're right. This is the best bowl prediction yet.
I love
We'll move on from media umpire and then toss Cliff Godwin as well. Says Donnie Run Pass Kirkpatrick. Pretty good.
I would have listened to Cliff on opening day or media day say that he's not going to get tossed this year, and I would have done it first game out of spite. Sorry, Cliff.
I gotta say, Donnie Run Pass Kirkpatrick. He's pretty good. I like this guy.
It's been carrying tonight.
Hank Hinton says, if we go 3-1 this week, is it better to beat Duke or lose to Duke for RPI?
Beat Duke.
Beat Duke, get the quad 1 win, and then, losing 1 game at Tulane is not going to kill you. I mean, it's not going to do great things, but I think you'd rather have the Duke win for resume purposes.
And you would still be 15-7 on the road overall. I think that's still a pretty good metric. That's going to be a lot better than almost everybody else in the top 10, 12 in RPI.
Tulane on the road, Golf Yoda says, doesn't hit the same as a Rice loss at home. Yeah, if you lose any game to Rice at home, that is going to kill you. It's going to kill you just playing them 3 times because they're, just inside the top 200 last I checked?
Yeah, they're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
Mariners legend Jerry Harrison Jr.
Yep, he is on his way to being let go, I think. All right, guys, we have had 738 viewers. And many of them probably bots. But hey, we still had a lot of viewers here on this Monday night. It was good to have a Monday night. Bots, Elon Musk, all the buzzwords. Let's get them in.
Opponents.
What'd you say?
Opponents.
Oh God, don't want my internet to die again. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? I feel like we're missing something.
No, I mean,
top 25 predictions.
I think, that's what we're missing, the rankings. But yeah, I'll plug myself. Look on Twitter, J_Wags74. He actually did mute me. J_Wags74. I tweeted my latest field of 64 earlier today. And like I said, ECU down to the 9 seed. I'm sorry. NC State, Utah, Bryant, paired up with Georgia as the 8 seed. So go to Twitter, find it, and give it a click.
Give it a click. And check out Scott's, Race for 8 is what you titled it?
Oh, the race for the top 8, yeah. That's it's on Horse to Colors, kind of break down the 9 teams that I think are likely to be top 8. And then I did drop a stat of the day on Twitter. ECU has 9 losses by 11 runs. The following teams have single game losses by more than 11. Tennessee, Clemson, Kentucky, Oregon State, FSU, Duke, UNC, Georgia, Indiana State, Mississippi State, UC Irvine, Arizona, NC State, and Oregon. Those teams are all in the top 20. So Pirates
there you go.
have not been blown out in the whole season combined. So kind of crazy.
Hopefully it doesn't happen tomorrow night. If it does, Scott's deleting his tweet as a result of jinxing the Pirates.
100% delete.
All right, guys, it has been fun. We'll be back next Sunday night at 9, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
All right. Wags muted himself that time. All right. Next Sunday night, 9 o'clock, Bucks on the Pond podcast will return. We'll recap ECU's series at Tulane, also the midweek game against Duke. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks for all the questions. Sorry if we missed you. There was a lot of questions to get through, plus internet troubles. Hopefully we got to most of them. We'll be back next Sunday night. Until then, it's been real.